That's good conversation.
Yeah, we're up.
The Alabama Sports Writers Association poll came out. First
Yeah,
one this week, Brett. Yeah, if
there's
you
been
wanted to
a
look
few.
through.
I think this is the third one.
Well, I read through one article that said it was the first one outside of the preseason poll that,
I know
that they
because I
put
looked
out.
at Gadsden City. We're going to Pisgah and Gadsden City Monday.
Okay,
So I've been watching them, and
they're pretty good, aren't they?
Gadsden City's 20-1, and
Yeah,
Pisgah's girls are
I think they're like 13-6.
they're third or fourth. So
Yeah, the problem with the 2A girls, I made that post is I think those girls play up quite a bit. So you can look this time of the year at their schedule or at their record and you think, I don't know if they're as good as they normally are, but it's because they're playing some really hard competition.
You don't really talk about the
same darn names though, Brett. Every single year, buddy. Same one. I tell you, who's really good.
We've not been to Pisgah yet.
That's a good trip.
We got 30 seconds.
Dothan's number one in boys basketball.
We're going to Dothan in 2 weeks.
Okay.
We've already got it scheduled. We got several new places that we haven't been. Rush would be a nice fit at Central. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I wouldn't be.
Rush who?
Rush Probst.
Would be a nice fit where?
Central Phoenix City. There we go.
Maybe so.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Sports Blitz Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. We're glad that you've joined us here on the show. It's pretty nasty outside. I got a pheasant shoot in about 6 hours or 5 hours or whatever time it is. Hope this thing gets out of here. But anyway, you know, the way those things are set up, you gotta go get it anyway. Doesn't matter if it's raining or not. But hopefully they'll get out of here. But it's been a flood the last several hours throughout Alabama and Georgia and everything else. Maybe this stuff will get on out of here. But we are glad that you are waking up with us at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, the ones that you are braving that. You know, some of you catch us later on as you get up and move around. But always doing this show here on Saturdays and a lot to discuss, you know, believe it or not, as we're in basketball season. But really the focus you know, the college football playoffs. Now we know who the national championship game is, and we're definitely going to talk a lot about that. The transfer portal, kind of where everybody is right now. I think probably college football is in more disarray than it's ever been as far as all this moving around. And I think we're seeing more discontent with college athletics than we've seen. Now, I think a lot of people have been sitting in the back, hoping that it would correct itself, but it only continues to get worse. And so now you're starting to see more and more people become vocal and more people become frustrated. And that means I'm hoping that you're getting somewhere toward some type of solution, or something to better this sport, because the way it is right now, it's about intolerable, and it's really turning people off of the sport. And when you start turning people off and people start going, well, I'm going to find something better to do with my time because I'm not passionate about it anymore, then things will change. That's what happens in this world. You have to make change when things go south. So we got a lot to talk about, but you know, here in this first hour, we talk a lot about, you know, the world and the scope of high school. And man, in 13 days, there's going to be a major decision made about the reclassification of athletics here and what all that involves. And I'm hearing all kind of things. It's all over the map of how, you know, the private schools may be gone. The private schools may stay based on these conditions and these stipulations. They may do some different things with the classifications and the organization of those. I don't think anybody really knows right now, but it's going to be interesting in 13 days. I can tell you that.
Well, one thing's for sure, and that is that the discussions that have been talked about for a very long time are being had right now, Brett. And you can like or dislike the angle on some, but I think some change has been needed for quite some time. But let me start with the privates and the publics. One, you and I had a very long talk about this recently. I have a hard time believing that your top 8 to 10 private schools that have been in the HSA are just going to say, I'm good with going back to the Independent School Association. And it could be it could be under the HSA umbrella. I don't know exactly how that would be set up, but let's talk about that a bit, Brett, because I think that's where the storyline begins. Is if you take all of those private schools out of the state, how many of them are there, Brett? Are there like 60?
60 something, yeah.
You know, you've got a wide majority of those are 2, 3, and 4A schools. There may be a bunch of 1A schools that I don't know about, but I think the majority are in those middle classifications. Really, the 3A range is where you see some of your better private schools. You know, of course, like they always did, they could have an outstanding setup. You know, it could be a lot of fun. You could have what did they have back in the day? You're going to have to talk with me. I know that you kept up with it a little better than I do, but I think they had 3 classifications.
Yeah, they had AISA had 3 classes. Yep.
You know, and so you've got your larger schools, your mid range, and then your lower, and that would probably be the exact same setup they would go back to. But I think all of that's a mute issue, Brett. If the top 8 or 10 that have been over with the HSA for a long time don't want to go back and do that. Do you agree? Because I think that's where it starts and stops. Of course, everybody's trying to play the leverage points that they have, Brett, but I don't know at the end of the day that I feel really strong that the private schools are going to separate. I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I really don't have a gauge on it. Like I was told last night by a pretty reliable source that they were gone, you know, and that they had been, you know, just hit an impasse. And I've just heard so many different scenarios and what's going on. And if they were to get out, what does that structure look like for the HSA moving forward with the classifications? Do you go back to 6 classifications? I heard that scenario last night where you eliminate, you know, the 7A classification. I've also heard the splitting of classifications where, you know, let's just take a round number and say 60 in any particular classification, and you do a 6A and a 6B. I don't know what they'd call it. I hadn't been in any of the conversation. I'm just food for fodder here. You can play whoever you want to in the regular season, like always, but when it comes to playoff times, the 30 grouping that you're in is who you'll compete against in the playoffs. Now, why would you do that? You know, here's the reason why you would consider doing something like that. It's because you're trying to figure out how to shorten the gap of discrepancy from the top of a class to the bottom. And some of the classes have a bigger discrepancy than others.
3 of them, really.
Yes, yeah. The top 2, 7 and 6, and then the bottom at 1. I mean, and if you're saying, well, why has 1 got a discrepancy? Well, let's just say the smallest 1A school's got 20 kids and the top one has 70. I'm just throwing that out there. Well, in the scheme of things, that's a massive number, man. Like if you
200% is the number in 1A.
Yeah, so you're talking about, and that's boys and girls. So if you're referring to football, that 20 numbers, that's 20 students. Like, and if you're trying to put a football I'm just being hypothetical here, everybody. So don't get all panicky and stuff. I'm just using some scenarios to kind of make it, you know, where you can kind of see where this is going. Now, if you got 20 and you compete with 70, well, now if you cut that in half and it's 40, right, and 20, it's a little bit more manageable, isn't it? Because in 1A, you can take one player, a really stud quarterback or something, and really make a difference. But my point is you're trying to close the gap in the top of the classification versus the bottom and give the bottom portion an opportunity to legitimately have a shot. I'm not saying that somebody at the bottom of classification can't win a state title. Benjamin Russell was 2 games away from doing that this year in 6A. But on a year in and year out basis, it's not possible.
It's not going to happen.
No,
it doesn't happen. And thank the Lord for 7A, because here's the numbers. 7A is 100%. the top of the classification to the bottom is 100%. The top of the classification, 2,200 students at Auburn and Hoover, down to 1,100 students or so at the bottom of 7A. 6A is 80%. The top half, 1,050 to 1,100 in 6A, all the way down to about 600. So there's an 80% difference there. Now, 5A, 4A, and 3A. 5A is like 40 to 50%. 3A and 2A is our best options. They're right around 30%. And then you get to 1A, it's 200% difference between top and bottom. Think back in the day, before the 7A classification. You and I lived in an area, we lived in a town that was always playing a 200% difference. I mean, we were sitting at 700, expected to play against 2,200 enrollment schools.
Yep.
And getting upset with one another when we lost out in the third round. I mean, it's like, okay, that's probably not the best setup. So at least there have been some changes that have been made over the years. But you throw the private school dynamic in on the mix is where it gets really confusing, Brett, because when you and I were coming through school, there were a few private schools, but really none. I don't think Briarwood really jumped into the HSA until the late 90s, if memory serves me correct. I may be off by 4 or 5 years there, but I'm throwing a couple of teams that I know that jumped in earlier than others. The UMS Wrights, the St. Paul's, the McGill Toolans, keep going. That a lot of them even stayed with your Montgomery schools, stayed in AISA for quite some time. I mean, Lee Scott and Glenwood, who's just two of our bigger ones on this side of the state, they're just now jumping in. So all of that's changed recently. So you could go back to the other setup, but I think it would be disappointing to see it split. If you did, though, and all the private schools went into one bucket again, I think that it's still a very competitive league and a fun league to compete in. The problem with that league has been so many moving out. You don't have enough really good teams to compete against year in and year out. But, Brett, I mean, you and I could sit here and reel off 30 private schools here in the state of Alabama that are unbelievable in all sports, pretty much.
Yeah,
girls and boys side. Right. If you competed, and most of those schools we'd reel off are really close to the same size because they don't want to be in 6 and 7A. So they make sure, I don't know that that's how they maintain their enrollment, but they definitely don't want to jump up into those classifications from an athletic standpoint. So I don't have the answers. I'm kind of glad that it's being discussed. I hope there's some decisions that are made that can be sustained long term. That's the biggest problem, is when you're changing constantly, it feels like. And the ever-changing world of football in general, going to the college ranks and now to the high school. Just pick a set of rules and stick with them, but make sure that they're a set of rules that are tough enough on everyone, that it holds everybody accountable. And right now, it doesn't feel that way top to bottom. Do you agree with that, Brett?
No,
it just doesn't.
It doesn't. I mean, we're going to talk a lot more about this as we move along. We're up against our first break here on the show. Again, we want to thank everybody for joining us each and every day. Take a break for TV, and we'll be back right after this.
So tell me what you're hearing, Brett, because I didn't have the conversation.
Well, I don't want to dive into it since we're up on here. Because
just give me the basics of what
I just think that the multiplier and the competitive balance thing combines a problem for them. And so, I've heard that they're thinking about, I don't know who they is, I don't know who's in these discussions and talks, but, I think there's a little bit more smoke around this splitting of the classes. Now that could be bogus too, but it just feels like there's some more, to me, that's the biggest problem. Like, if the privates can't come to the agreement to stay in AHSA because of those things, then they're going to go out anyway. But I think the biggest problem is figuring out how the rest is going to compete and give everybody a legit chance if you're going to just keep it. And if you go to 6 classifications, it's going to make it even worse again. So, you take 60 out, you still got to, you basically lose an entire class when you take 60 teams out. Because if you look at 6A and 5A, they got like 57, 58 teams.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking six. I'm not saying they're all in one class. I'm just saying top to bottom, the equivalent of an entire class is gone at that point. So do you take, and then, really a lot of your private schools are sandwiched in the 3A, 4A bracket. So you're really going to deplete them. They're going to lose. And so how do you restructure that? I don't know, but and I don't like the everybody gets a trophy scenario in this country. I don't think that's what this split is. If you did it that way, and we're throwing out hypothetical situations, if you had a 6A and a 6B, now I literally, if I'm at the bottom of that class every single year, I feel like, man, I got a chance. I can go play whoever I want to play. I can play whoever I want to play during the regular season. Come playoff time, I don't have to worry about a team or a school that's got 300-400 more students than me, 500 more students than me, or 700 more students than me that I got. I mean, just now, again, like you always say, a flash in the pan when you got a good run of athletes come through. But you'd like to know that if you put a really good program together and you did the right things year in and year out, you'd have a legit chance to compete every year. I mean,
it's the problem in a lot of communities. I mean, that you just said is the biggest issue. And it's not just football. It's every other sport. And when you are,
I think we got 30 seconds,
really struggling to develop and put together a consistent program, it's upsetting to everyone that's involved. It really is. And
right.
I can see how difficult it is. I mean, the state of education overall in this state's difficult. This just is part of it. I'm talking about getting teachers and coaches in general.
Oh, no, people they need to understand, man. I mean, it's, you're competing. Here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Appreciate both of them so much. Talked to Kevin Keel a couple times this week, man. Always good to hear from him. Great business at Sunshine Heating and Air. I don't know that anybody has had a more successful business around these parts than him. And when you talk about successful businesses, you look at customer service, and in his world, that's extremely important. When you're in the middle of July and it's 800 degrees and your air goes out, boy, he and I had this discussion. He said, you see the real person when your air goes out in the middle of July, and you find out who's got a little bit of a short fuse and who doesn't. When people are hot and they're bothered, but again, customer service is top notch with Sunshine Heating and Air, and that's why you choose them for your next heating and air unit or repair, whatever you call them, Sunshine Heating and Air. So appreciate Kevin so very much, and big supporter of high school athletics and both private and public schools. So we look at this these scenarios with the reclassification and just kind of remind everybody this should have been done in December. And when you do it every 2 years, it's done in December. So you kind of prepare, but this thing was put on hold because there were some, basically the private schools were not happy with the current setup, and they're trying to figure out a compromise, I guess would be the correct word, and to figure out how they can stay part of the HSA. And then on the flip side, you got to go back and see why a majority of these private schools have drifted over to the HSA over the last however many years. It's because of the competition. And, I know some people personally, and you do too, that out of their mouth, they said, well, we want our student athletes to compete at the highest level, and they weren't getting that in the current setup that they were in. It's not a knock on AISA. I'm just telling everybody what they said and what their reasoning was behind, why they left. And so, are you going to go right back to that setup is the biggest question. And, because there was a lot of effort in making that move over, and it's been very good for a lot of schools. But, and I hear what you say about, well, you get 20 or 30 really, really good private schools and they can have a good league. I understand that too, but that's a very, very minute number. And then there's discrepancy in geography and where you got to travel to get all those. Because all those top 20 schools aren't all in the same area.
Great point.
So there's a lot. And that's another thing when it comes to these classifications that's been so difficult. It's when you're trying to break down regions, you're trying to group teams and schools together where travel's just not such a burden on schools because of cost and things. You get all this stuff comes into play because every time we've always tried to have meetings and have discussions about solutions, you go, well, man, do you really want a team from Dothan traveling to Huntsville? You know, a couple of times a football season. I'm being extreme, but I'm just saying that that's not far off for some of these 7A schools because, you know, and I know that you can't help the amount of schools in certain areas like that Wiregrass area. That's tough, man. You're really spread out in who you can go play against in your region. So there's no perfect solution to it, but I think it's going to be interesting on the 23rd. Whatever happens, it's going to be major change, I think, regardless.
Well, let's give the 3 or 4 reasons that you and I know the discussions are being had and why they started. And let's start with the private school and their issues with the current setup. And we can agree and disagree. That way we can, you know, kind of set the basis of why we're going down this path. You know, the private schools see what's going on in the public schools and the moving around. Let's be honest. Brett and I called a state championship game, and I won't say the team, several years back that had over 30 kids that had a different huddle account the year before. Is that fair to say, Brett?
Right.
All right. What that means is they were at a different high school the year before, and now they're in a big area where it's a very easy move and a really quick move. And if you want to partner up with the friends of yours that you grow up with, because all of these kids now in this transient society that we live in, I mean, there's nothing to go play on a travel team with kids 10 miles up the road in a certain area. I mean, you all know one another. And if you're competitive enough and your parents have you out there on the circuit, which most of these do, you're going to know who you want to partner up with and the you know, the families and the players that have played together before. And that's only going to get more and more as we get in these societies where you don't necessarily have to go to a factory every morning, and 8,000 employees here at Russell Corporation are all living in this community and not traveling outside of the Lake Martin area to find a job. Those days are gone. I mean, if you got an answer on how to fix that economically, then you deserve several $1 billion here in this state to figure that out. It's not an easy answer to find. So back to that though, Brett, that has changed that entire dynamic that the private schools have the ability to go out there and recruit and the publics don't. Now you can call it recruiting, you can call it whatever you want, but when you've got anywhere from 10 to 30 kids transferring into your school, and it may not be 10 to 30 in baseball, basketball, softball, but the equivalents are transferring into your school in each of those too. So by no means is this just a football deal. It's not at all.
Oh, no.
The private schools see this and they go, hold up. Y'all are making me play on the multiple, which means what is it, 1.35, Brett? Is that the current multiple that they're forced to play under? That means if you're really a 2A school, you're playing in the 3A classification.
That's usually what it does. You usually bump up one.
And
so competitive balance, you know, that then you bump up again, you know.
Well, and the competitive balance and also there's a couple of things that I agree with the private schools today. One, the multiple, if you happen, because I don't know how the AHSAA structures this to clean this up either. I mean, if it's a legitimate move, it's a legitimate move, Brett. How do you determine whether something's a legitimate move and it's not in this society? I mean, I'm going to throw a number out there that in Tallapoosa County and Elliott City alone, 60 to 70% of the population travels outside of the city to work. Is that fair?
I think so.
Okay, so what do you deem a legitimate move? Somebody that's already traveling to Montgomery to work, and then they move their family over there to send them to a high school in Montgomery. You don't think that's a legitimate move? The HSA can't. I mean, and this is not my decisions to make, for one. Brett and I aren't in the room. We're just talking heads that love this sport. But I do see that. And so that multiplier, probably does need to be looked at a little bit different than it was 20 years ago. Here's another thing. Competitive balance. I mean, if you've got a 5A school that wins 3 straight state championships, or a Jackson High School that wins 2 or 3 straight state championships in football,
And it's not really even close.
and they're running away with it outside of one private school here in the state that's giving them a little bit of a little competition, then you get what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
why would the private schools have to keep
And it's even worse in
bumping up?
other sports, not just the football. Like there's volleyball and some of these sports, tennis, where
Yes.
some of these schools, and you've even named soccer off, where why wouldn't you move up? Why wouldn't you want your program to move up? You just sit down there and beat people's brains out.
And we're talking about the private schools already are moving up.
Right.
So your Montgomery Academy.
I'm saying for all. I'm not saying. I'm saying it doesn't matter what you are, if you're public or private. If you are that dominant in your classification in whatever particular sport, you should yearn for more competition and go, well, let's see what we can do a step up. And then you move up a step, you dominate that, you ought to move up another step. I mean,
Glenn, and I hear what you're saying, but I completely disagree, Glenn. And the reason I disagree with you, and I very seldom disagree with you, by the way, might be the first time actually, but the reason I disagree with you is these public schools are having move-ins too. Having your cake and eating it too is totally different than it was 20 years ago, where Brett and I grew up in Elliott City, Alabama, and whoever grew up in our community is who we had, unless Russell Corporation pulled somebody in randomly and they end up on our team. That is not the way this thing's played anymore. It may be played that way in some communities, but the ones that you and I call it the Super 7, that's not how it's played in those communities, Brett. It's not. And like it or dislike it, it's different. And it's getting more, and it has exploded in the last 5 years.
Right. Well,
is that safe to say?
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on that too. We got to get the break for TV. We come back, we'll keep this discussion going. And there's a lot of coaching changing going on in high school right now too.
Oh, yes.
A lot of jobs that have opened up. Some have been filled and some are still open. So, all right, stay tuned. More to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
So, Glenn, my point is that if you've got a school that was decently competitive the year before, but not really competitive, and then they have 34 kids transfer into.
I will say this about that. I think you're dead on what you're saying. I do think in private schools, what's been to the points like you could, and I know people move based on, basically you move if it's geographically feasible for you to move. Rarely do you see somebody moving from Huntsville to Mobile. Okay. But I mean, I know it happens.
It has happened. Yes.
Yes. But not on that's an outlier.
To a public school, by the way.
What I'm saying is it's for public schools and private in these more dense populated areas like the Mobiles, the Birminghams, the Huntsvilles, the Montgomerys. It's easier to move around and there not be as much smoke. I mean, for lack of better terms. Now, in these rural communities, in public schools and private, I guess you could throw it out there, but private, it's tuition. You can recruit somebody to come there and go to school. It's a little bit different. But from a public school situation in rural communities, I don't know that it's really increased a ton, maybe in a couple.
I agree with that.
So, I mean, they still don't have the opportunity to bring a bunch of people in because, number one, they're not built for that. They don't have jobs and, and they don't have housing. There's a lot of different things that go into that. So it's just more rampant. And let's just be honest, in the Birmingham and the Mobile markets, like that's where you really see.
This is where
where
when Ben Russell, at the time, playing with who we got,
right,
going down to play the Spanish Forts and the Saralands of the world.
Yep.
That everybody knows that they're bouncing around from one program to the next. And it was going on in those communities a little bit more. Now it's become rampant everywhere. Because the problem is you go down there and you've got a really great squad that you've developed in your local community, and you go down, you lose by 2 touchdowns to a team that grabbed a quarterback from 5 miles up the road that was starting for a different team the year before. And then that same quarterback ends up in a different school the next year. Now, what's the HSA supposed to do? You know, if it's a legitimate move, it's a legitimate move. I don't know that there's a good answer. And Glenn says public schools are being punished for moves, but a private school has always had recruits. Yes, but my point is that the public schools in the areas that the private schools that we're talking about are doing it. If not, they may be doing it better than the private schools.
That goes back to my point, and I kind of agree with what both of y'all are saying. I'll say that here in about 5 seconds when we come back for TV. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR's Sports Bar and Grill. And when I was getting ahead of myself, we're going to brag on JR Sports Bar and Grill because of, they've been with us for 20 plus years now, and they've been in Allen City for 27. That's hard to believe that their 2-year anniversary, their 25th anniversary was 2 years ago. It's time's flying, but the same great food, the same great people. I can't say enough about them, and they support so much. And it's the home for our Lake Martin Sports Roundup show. I'm there every Wednesday. Had a great show. Appreciate Wary Sexton and SNS Discount Tire, who's also been a longtime partner of ours, but steps up and sees the importance of that Lake Martin Sports Roundup show, the local part, and joins forces with us there as one of our main partners on that show. Had Wary on the show with me on Wednesday. So always glad to have him up there, and he is very passionate and done a lot. He's like JR's, and he's like Sunshine Heating and Air. Their companies and their businesses make it a priority to support the local schools and what it means to these schools. We appreciate all of them so very much. Going back to our discussion, and Glenn's bringing up good points, and you are too, Randy. I just think, again, it goes back to the location that you're in, that it's easier to do and pull off this stuff in these more dense populated areas like Montgomery, Birmingham, and Mobile. And you got a bunch of schools packed in there together, and literally a couple of streets can divide a school district.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you got a coach, and we've all said this multiple times, if you got a really good football coach, a really good basketball coach, a really good softball coach, or whatever it is, and you're just, 3 miles as the crow flies from one school to the next, and they got a really good program, and the one that you're at is struggling, and your ambition is to, and you got a kid that, has got some talent, and you feel like they need to be coached up. You feel like, you want to compete for a championship, or you want to give your kid the best opportunity to get a college scholarship, or whatever you want to say, however you want to spin that.
Which is a business now, by the way.
That's right. So you make that 6-mile move over to that next school, and you may not even, do you move houses? You just go over a couple streets. It just is more convenient to say than say if you're on North Sand Mountain moving to. So I'm just throwing hypothetical stuff.
No, you make great points, and that's part of the reason that I 1,000% agree with the rural communities that don't have access to doing that. They've got a beef with the overall deal. And Glenn, I read your comment right there, and the biggest thing. Let's just take a community like Ellick City. We don't have 15 high schools around us. They're not around.
And you got one school, and you're it. You're not competing against anybody.
If you have a coach move in like Kirk that was in the Montgomery region, and he's got players that want to make legitimate moves and stay with him, which, by the way, if my kid's 10th or 11th grader and I love his coach, and I'm living in one community and I'm playing a key role on a team that I know exactly what I'm going to get from that, I'm going to make a legitimate move, and I'm going to stick with him. And that's what happened there. Now, is that going to happen every year? I don't think it can. Not in communities like ours. So it may happen once every blue moon when a coach moves in with you and a couple want to follow, but you're not in. And I'm just going to bring up some names. I'm not saying that they're doing it, but you're not Gulf Shore, Saraland, Spanish Fort, Orange Beach, Foley. Keep going down the list of public schools, and then
I
you
mean, look
got
at what
6 or 8
Foley.
more. You got 6 or 8 more private schools that are winning state championships down there too. I mean, these
And I hate to
families,
say
they're
this.
going to find their way.
Well, I hate to say this. Well, I don't hate to say it. I don't know why, because I don't have a dog in the fight. But obviously, Foley is tired of losing, and they're in a district where they're looking around and everybody's successful, and they're not. So they go hire Brian Moore from Opelika, and they paid him a boatload of money. And I'm not going to get into specifics, but you said they're in an area where they should have resources no different than the ones around them that are building new schools and new facilities and stuff like that. And, they go, well, if they can attract them, and if we're ever going to attract some of these better players, then we better step up our game.
Yep.
If not, we're going to continue to be who we are. And, that's to me one of the biggest examples, because you take a guy like Brian Moore who left Hartselle to go to Opelika, where he's a hometown guy, takes Opelika to a state title game, and then is coerced to leave a month later, to go be the new football coach at Foley. And again, we have seen all this roll downhill from the college ranks. You're seeing coaches move. You're seeing salaries increase. You're seeing communities go, we think this is massively important to our community and our school, and we want to be really good at it. So we're going to throw resources at it. We're going to throw, the money and the facilities and the things that we need to give our community a chance to compete at the highest level. That's really the brass tacks of all of it.
Well, you and I just toured the new Benjamin Russell High School yesterday. I'm proud in the community that you and I grew up in that the money's being thrown at that, and it's needed. But let's go to Foley. Brett and I, many moons ago, worked hand in hand with Don Staley, who I still think the world of. And Don, who was the city of Tuscaloosa's tourism and sports commissioner, moves down to Foley and and he's not the only one, but he was kind of the lead dog in putting that entire athletics complex together that has people all over this state traveling down to it week in and week out. I just passed it this past midweek this week, Brett. It's unbelievable what they built there, and they've got the tax basis. Now, I guess the next move is to go, okay, we've spent all this money on making this a haven for you to come to and to spend money and increase our tax basis, and people are moving there, and there's industry there, and there's manufacturing, and there's more jobs coming to that area. You've got to throw the money at trying to put together a great product that can coerce the players to go, where do I want to go play? Well, one, I want to go play somewhere where I think the coach is as good a guys. I love Mark Freeman, so I'm going to use Mark. I'd like Mark Freeman to help raise my kids. Don't mean he's raising them, but they're with them all the time.
Well, I mean you spend more time with your coaches than you do your own family most of the time.
So you're going to pick a guy that go, I just love that guy. I like what he stands for. He's a great Christian man. That's who I want my player with. Pat Nix, who just retired this week and is moving into the ministry, Brett. If you're over in the Phoenix City market and you're within a 10-mile radius, my gosh, how would I get my kid with that guy? Because that's who I want helping raise my kid. And the decisions are made around that. I think people think the decisions are a lot more nefarious than they really are. I think that they think that that communities, say like ours and others, have this big old pocket of money, like there's $1 million sitting over there in this big budget, and there's housing that's sitting over here beside the school, and there's all these families moving in, and everybody's getting a supplement to come and play for us. Dude, I'm telling you, if that's going on somewhere, I'm not saying it may not be going on at an outlier, but
I don't know why you would even do that, though.
I can't fathom. I'm almost 50 now. I mean, in my Mike Gundy voice, I can't fathom throwing my money at something like that. And I don't think. But if you're telling me that kids are bouncing around,
just so you can walk around and puff your chest out and say my high school's on top of the mountain, is that all you're getting for your return? I mean, not to say that you don't support your school, but I mean, you're going to go spend tens of thousands of dollars on people to come to your community for you to just have a little bragging rights. I'm sorry if you're doing.
Well,
I know we got to get to break. Let me get to break.
okay.
We're behind, so we'll keep this conversation going when we come back. Stay tuned. More to come right after this. But I mean,
you don't think they're going to bounce around for the best
if you take a step back and look at it realistically, and these people that are whining about kids moving to certain communities and following coaches and all that, I mean, literally, first of all, I just cannot fathom a random person, even if they've got millions of dollars, going, yeah, I'll do whatever because I really want my alma mater to be a state champion. You know, like in college, it's different because you're throwing money around and you're getting kickback stuff, and it's a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar business. In high school, it's the same mentality of moving around to win championships. But I mean, who in the hell, like, you're not throwing money or those kind of numbers around to bring people in. And recruiting, the word recruiting gets misconstrued with now some of these people that do decide to move and follow coaches, like you said. Like, if that's what you're calling recruiting, then so be it. Then I guess it's all recruiting.
Well, it's been going on.
But it's a
unfortunately
choice. It's a
been going on.
choice. It's a choice for, you just said it. It's a choice that you make as a person with your child to go follow a coach. If somebody at another school calls that recruiting, then so be it. I guess it is recruiting, but that's really not that coach doing anything but going to another job and those families deciding to follow them.
Yep.
Right? It's no different. Look, if you want to compare it to college, it's no different than a bunch of those South Florida guys coming to Auburn to follow Alex Golesh. Like, they could go anywhere they wanted to. I think Keyshawn Singleton could go wherever the hell he wanted to go. Byron Brown sure could have gone wherever he wanted to go. Now, I know you're going, well, the NIL deals and the money coerce them to come. Yes, I know that's part of it too. But it does say something that 14 of those guys wanted to follow him. Look at all the Iowa State guys that following the guy to Penn State and vice versa. Look at all the guys that followed Kirk Cignetti from James Madison to Indiana. And I know in all those situations, you would consider those upgrade moves as a player. Iowa State to Penn State, better program. South Florida, Auburn, in SEC, better program, right? James Madison to Indiana, I don't know if that's a better program. I don't, because James Madison won a hell of a lot more than Indiana's won in their career. But bottom line is, it's more to do about the man. It's more to do about the person that's moving. And those guys like, I love that coach. I'm going to go play for him over here. Doesn't matter where he goes. And if he moves again, I'm going to move again. So it's really not even about the school and the community. It's about the person.
And the program.
Well, you got to have the program to go to, but that's why that coach leaves and goes to that program.
Yeah, I'm saying that program is built around that coach.
100%. But when he leaves and goes to another program, a lot of those players go, well, I'm going wherever he's going there too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really about the school. It's about the guy.
I can speak up for Brett Pritchard here. I mean, Coach Horn left, I guess, with Braden having a couple of years left, and boy, Brett was Brett loved Danny Horn. I know I'll say that.
Keep that thought going. We got to get back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Just got a couple more segments here before we get to hour number 2. Randy, I'll kick it back over to you.
Well, I was just giving a personal example of all of this. Brett and Coach Horn have always had a great relationship. And by the way, I read the article yesterday. I thought it was very well put on AL.com. And if Danny decides to retire, he's going to forever be the best I've seen on and off the field. And I've been around some great ones, but none any better than Danny Horn. But when Braden had a couple of years left and he was deciding to go back to Central Clay, Brett was, of course, oh, my gosh. Please, Coach, don't leave me while I got a couple of years left, because you knew the point you were making is not that whoever was going to get the job is not going to do a good job. You don't think that way, but it's like, I know what I'm getting with you. And I think the world of what you do for kids. And I want my kid to be involved for a couple more years with you, and I'm going to call it a win if that happens. And I think more decisions are made around that than they are the other way around, because it's unfortunate, but there are a lot of programs out there that just don't put in the effort and don't have the leadership that others do, Brett. And when you're a part of one that is really going in the right direction and you know you're excelling, you don't want to leave that guy, do you? And
Well, I
it's
mean,
easy to move with them.
it is. I mean, and for Danny, that he's a Hall of Fame coach, and you knew he was in the moment. And you don't get a chance. There's only so many guys that make it and women that make it to the Hall of Fame. I'm on the HSA Hall of Fame committee, and it's an honor to serve on that committee. And this past year's the class coming up, the one that we just selected, it's hard, man. I mean, there were probably, I don't know how many applications we went through, a bunch, and almost every one of them were deserving. But you can only pick so many every year in that class, and then there's some that come back around to be re-upped, and they still don't get in. My point is, there's only a very small amount of people that make it to the Hall of Fame. And you knew 10, 15 years ago that Danny Horn was going to be in the Hall of Fame. It was just a matter of time because of what he's accomplished. And yeah, if you got a child and you have the potential to have them coached by a guy that, or a woman that's in a female sport or whatever, that's going to go into the Hall of Fame, I mean, that's a very, very small opportunity for most people. Most people can't walk around and say, not only did I play that sport, but I was coached by a Hall of Famer, and I learned a lot from them. So yeah, that was my, disdain on when I got the phone call that day that he was leaving to go back. Selfishly, I was in a situation where I had a son that was coming through the program, and I would have loved for him to have played for him. I mean, that's it. But I understood that he had to go do what he had to do and the situations, and you move on and you deal with it. So, but yeah, I think that's really the gist of it. There's just not a lot of them. I mean, the people up there in the northern part of Alabama love to have had, and have had their kid coached by Paul Benefield, and we got a friend now in Kyle Rush that was coached by Jamie Riggs at TR Miller. And Kyle and I've had multiple conversations about his time at TR Miller. And, I know the Cooks that live in Alex City now, and their son, and how much, they're from Bruton, and, and talking about Jamie Riggs. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about Jamie Riggs. But these are Hall of Fame, like Coach Curtis at UMS served on the committee with him, and how well thought of he is everywhere, that we go, and he's just got a great personality, and how many people he's, touched, over the years, by him being the coach down there, and other coaches that have learned under him. I can just keep going, but those are I've only named 4 or 5, and there's just a very small amount that ever can say they ever played for somebody like that.
The biggest point I'm glad you're making, though, is I think those decisions far outweigh the decisions that other people think is the reason that kids bounce around. Now, of course, are there outlying deals that happen? Of course, but more families are having the discussions that you just talked about than others. I truly believe that. And when it's no different than college, when you get a great leader, you got to do everything in the world to keep them, because the odds of getting the next one, you hope you can keep landing great ones, but unfortunately it doesn't work out that way. I mean, there's a reason that some leaders are way more successful than others, and that's never going to change in this life. So Cindy, I think it's Ed asking, do you two believe boosters of universities help pay for big time athletes to stay in community? I don't know. I don't think, but look, I think the whole underground deal with recruiting that used to go on, I think it partially goes on now, Brett, but I'm not sure that it goes on to the level that it went on when you and I were growing up.
Right.
I mean, there was cash being handed when you and I grew up. I mean, I've got friends of mine that were given money both ways growing up, and you knew it was going on, and you saw the underbelly of it, and it smelled, but it was what it was. And if you were organized, like, I mean, we love to in this state say the Red Elephant Club was as well organized as you could organize anything, and it probably was. And that brings success. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that that's right or wrong, but you get what I'm saying. I mean, it
I
was
don't
what it
think
was.
that right there is as important as it used to be. I don't think that has much bearing at all. Like, because these kids now, they don't have any loyalty, number one, to any of the schools.
No.
And number two, it's every year. It's year to year, man. And you better understand that you may think that guy's content and he's locked in. Malik Blockton is one of the last ones I'd have said would have transferred from Auburn, but he did. And his position coach stayed, his defense coordinator stayed. Nobody I thought was more of an Auburn guy in this day and age than Malik Blockton, but he got coerced to come to LSU. So that part right there, Ed, I think is probably deader than ever. All right, because I just think that every year they're going to reevaluate no matter how much they love this. I think Cam Coleman loved Auburn. I think he still loves Auburn. But I think the market and his situation forced him to make the decision he's making. And, you can't blame them because they're playing the game that's out there. So I just don't think the loyalty part and the moving to the community and all that matters, because they're going to reevaluate every single year and where they want to go. All right, we got to get to break. Stay tuned. One final segment coming up here in hour number one.
Now, are there certain people in communities that help the kids in that community? I mean, yeah, but hell, that's been going on since the beginning of time.
Yeah,
that's not going to change.
No.
So,
but I don't think staying somewhere.
I don't know that. Let's say
I think that's a waste. If you try to get somebody to go to a community play this high school because you can control where they go to college, no, not back in the day. Yes, now no, because Texas Tech and Indiana and everybody else has got as much money as Alabama and whoever in the past was doing what they were doing, so that don't carry any weight anymore. I mean, I'm sorry, those other schools. It's like the Blue Bloods, the North Carolinas and the Kansases and the Dukes and all that in basketball. Their days of dominating are over. I mean, you look at the landscape of college basketball, they still have good programs. But look at Kentucky. Hell, they spent more money than anybody. They're 0-2 in the league. And you got Mark Pope saying he's laying in the bed wanting to kill himself. I mean, just weird crap. Yeah. Because, these kids go, okay, Kentucky's been they got a great program. That don't mean nothing to me anymore. I don't care that you won all these national championships and Rupp Arena and all that. That stuff don't matter to them. It's like, I'll go over here to Timbuktu and play for them if they've got the money and they've got a good coach. And why can't we go over here and win? Auburn's a prime example. Went from the bottom of the league to a top 15 program year in and year out under Bruce Pearl, and two Final Fours. And the only reason, here's the flip side of this thing we complain about all the time about the NIL and the transfer portal. Well, because of that, allowed Auburn to have a good basketball program. Because if we were still under the old guise of the way things were, Auburn would probably still be in the cellar. And you know what? If it weren't for the transfer portal and NIL, Indiana, and I know everybody goes, well, they don't have any 5-stars, but my point is the landscape of the game has allowed Indiana, because Indiana's the most losing program, Power 4 program in the history of college football. And they're on the cusp of winning a national title. If you were under the old rules and the old way things were done,
no chance.
They wouldn't be sniffing it. You wouldn't be talking about this.
Nope. First off, you wouldn't have the best quarterback in the country, the Heisman Trophy winner, that had been in Cal for 3 years. I mean, you wouldn't have the best center in the country that was at Notre Dame last year.
Right. You don't get any of those guys. So
how much time? Yeah, and Glenn, Coach Blue,
20 seconds.
Amazing. Oh, yeah. And if you take Coach Blue to the point I think we're making is if you take him to Birmingham, and you stick him at one of every single kid within a 10-mile radius is gravitating him.
Here we go, 5 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown. One final segment here in hour number one. No, that point is very valid. I mean, again, it's not just football. It's basketball, it's baseball, it's softball, whatever. I mean, we've covered all these schools that have great programs and have great coaches
Great leaders.
And they want, look, man, you want your kid, if it's possible, to play for that person. Again, it overshadows the program. Now, if you got a coach that stayed there 25, 30 years, they are the program. They've made that program.
You follow basketball.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But at the end of the day, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Kurt Johnson comes to Benjamin Russell, and you get several of these guys on his team, from his team at Catholic, to come to Allen City to follow him to play. It wasn't like it was some mass influx of people coming from Prattville, this mass influx of people coming from Birmingham, this mass influx of people coming from Mobile. These are guys that he had mentored and been around for a long time, that decided, their family said, look, now I love that guy and I love this coaching, because the majority of the coaching staff came too. So it's where they were comfortable. And it's no shot on the guys that stayed at Catholic, but it's the relationship and the bond. And I watched it. I saw the bed goods, the relationship they have with the Johnsons. It goes way deeper than X's and O's on the football field. I mean, it's like those families are interconnected. You know, I think I'm not out of line saying that. I mean, that's how close they are, and so forth and so on. I mean, it becomes that way, you know, because, and it would have mattered if Kurt would have gone to wherever. I think they would have still found that. But my point is, up until then, Randy, there's not. Ben Russell ain't got these mass influx of people coming in every year. When was the last time Ben Russell had this mass influx of people coming in?
Well, I keep bringing up one that changed the program back in the day, and that was just because a coach came, and that was Bryant coming with Danny. I mean, until we got him at quarterback, I don't know that we were ever going to win any football games during that stretch. I know I'm being a little bit, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that was how important that move-in was.
Right.
During that time. I mean, that's how good that kid was. So, I mean, no, we don't get them. And it's not, we're not in an area where it's easy to do that.
That's what the whole point of what we've said for an hour here.
Yeah.
You don't live in an area where there's 6 or 7 schools sandwiched in to a 10-mile rate. I mean, I know that's a little
but there are those schools, and it is happening more and more frequently in those communities. So, at the end of the day, I know we're up at the top of the hour, and we can talk about this for hours upon hours because it's that important to high school sports here in the state, the decisions that are made in the next couple of weeks. The further I get down the line, the more that I see the private school side of the story, Brett, here. I truly
understand. I get it.
Because the private schools are in those communities. Those 3 main communities that Brett, let's just say 4 of them: Mobile, Huntsville, Montgomery, and Birmingham, Brett. Every one of those private schools, or a majority of the private schools in the state, are in those communities, correct?
Correct.
Well, they've got a dozen public schools within 15 miles of them that have kids following coaches and doing the things that probably wasn't happening as much 15, 20 years ago. But in this society, I think it's only going to happen more and more. Like it, dislike it. I don't know how you monitor it. I don't know how you keep up with it. But at the end of the day, and maybe you're the opposite way, Brett, but I truly see the private school side of the things here. I'm not saying that you turned a blind eye, but my point, let's go to one program real quick that I think is building one of the best programs in the country. Orange Beach softball. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Orange Beach softball, if you leave them in the classification they're in, they may win 25 straight state championships in softball. Do you agree with that?
Oh,
they are amazing. They work at it. They've got the resources. They've got outstanding coaching. Got great travel organizations. But it's wild how good. And Brett went down and covered it. Have y'all been down there a couple of times to cover?
We've done football and softball at Orange Beach.
But they just happen to be a public school. Well, I'm in agreement that let's see if they can win a 7A state championship, because I'm not sure that they can. If you're going to make the private schools that win umpteen championships over and over bump up, then I'm in agreement that should be the same. The competitive balance should be the same in all sports, right, whether you're public or private. Is that not fair?
I think it's fair.
I think it's exceptionally fair. If Ben Russell drops to 5A, let's put it that way, and wins 2 or 3 state championships in a row, man, okay, bump us back up. Let's see how we compete up.
Well, it happened with St. Paul. I know it's private, but St. Paul's had to do it because they were dominating 5A so
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah. And so and for instance, if you go up and you're not as successful, then you come right back down after a couple of year cycle.
that's it.
So I don't see what the argument is. And the one that I've used more than most, because I see these little girls start and where they are, is Montgomery Academy soccer. They have no use playing in 3A in soccer. They don't. Their boys just won the 7A state championship, and their girls are just as good
7A,
as
by the way.
their girls are just as good as every other team in 7A too. Like, I don't know why you'd want to compete down there. You're not proving anything winning championships down below. But I think that in today's environment, Brett, that should transition as well to the public schools. That's the thing that I think the public schools should concede, is the competitive balance. We're all going to deal with competitive balance. If you're a basketball program that wins back-to-back state championships, Jackson, you got to move up and play in 5A next year. You can't sit down in 4A and win 10 in a row.
And it doesn't matter that you're losing 3 of the players that made you who you are. It just happens to be what it is.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got to get to the top of the hour break. We got a whole nother hour coming your way. Stay tuned. More to come right after this.
Trey, hey, good morning to you. You're dead on. That's what we've been talking about the entire hour. Is it's following leadership, it's following culture, it's following who you want to help raise your kids, it's following all of those things. And it's no different than the everyday work environment. I mean, some leaders are great and others aren't, and that's never going to change. You'd like to have more of the great ones, but I don't think the distribution is going to ever show that's going to happen. So we talked about the Alabama Sports Writers Association poll coming out earlier this week, and it's the same names over and over again. A lot of times, the same coaches. One, I brought up that last one, Brett. You follow basketball.
Yep.
Go look. If you're just from a different part of the state and don't understand how good a men's or boys basketball program you follow has had over the years, go pull up their record since their coach has been there. Like, they win 25 games every year. Do they win state championships every year? No, they don't. But that's not how I deem success. I deem success like year in and year out culture is going to develop kids to have an amazing experience under your program.
Right.
And that's one over the years. I didn't know how great Eufaula basketball was. Did you, Brett, before we started calling ball games?
No.
They are out of this world good, and their coach is as good as this state's ever produced.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not a miracle that some programs are really good and others aren't. I mean, let's just put it that way. Now that's a little bit different thing. That's a development deal. They just care about that sport there. It's kind of like Coosa over the years with Coach Blue. I mean, that's just very important to them. It's ingrained in that community and culture that you're going to work at it. And when you go play them, you're going to know for about beyond a shadow of a doubt they've been in the gym 3 times as much as you have over the last year.
Right.
You just better be a hell of a basketball player if you're going to go beat Coosa in basketball, unless you're just more talented.
Right. I totally agree. All right, 30 seconds.
How good was Indiana last night, Brett?
Dominant.
I don't even know where to begin.
They're just, man, it don't matter, man. They're so old, man. They're average. I mean, they're just an old football team, man, that knows how to get it done.
They do. And some of those throws Mendoza made. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, it's crazy. There we go.
You can't throw those sideline throws any better.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Hour number 2. Appreciate all the text messages and all that we've got coming in talking about the show this morning. I think it's important. In 13 days, you're going to have some big-time decisions going to shape high school athletics with this reclassification. And, a lot revolves around the private schools being, where they stay in or not, and then how they break down the classifications at that point. So there's a lot to be said there, and we'll continue to cover that as we move forward. If you got some more comments or whatever, do have some coming in here. Jumping in late. Not sure if I'm on top of it, but if we're talking high school players moving to different schools, I think it boils down to the overall program and leaders. You have your teams that jump and win championship built from the ground up, but it's certain schools that always going to keep the wheel turning. It feels like championship or bust every year. Look, those are good points. And what we're talking about this morning and have been talking about for an hour is all the factors that are going into why this decision is going to be what it is, and not turning a blind eye and understanding the new landscape of the game and people in a transient society moving to where they want to go. Okay. And the term recruiting gets thrown around loosely. As soon as somebody moves somewhere, they go, well, they were recruited. Well, okay. If somebody moves from one place to the next to play for another school and you call that recruiting, that's fine. Now, I also know that there are people being coerced to come to play at certain schools, and that's going on too. And I'm not saying it's not, but this is not big one pie that you throw everything into. But the word recruiting gets thrown around for every move.
I just wanted to end, though, that I completely see the private schools side of things. And 10 years ago, I didn't. 10 years ago, I've been on this program completely arguing that the private schools deserve to have that multiplier, need the competitive balance. It's not fair what they can do compared to us, blah, 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 blah. And I think I did it. And I conceded a couple of weeks ago with our good friend Rick Cleveland. Rick, if you're tuning in out there, we think the world of Rick. That you're right now, Rick, because things have changed. And when things change, you've got to change with the times. And I think the private schools are making a stance now, and it's for good reason. I'm just one opinion, though. I'm not saying I'm right. There's other opinions out there that think I'm totally wrong. But what my eyes tell me is what was happening 10 years ago is not the state that high school sports is in right now. It's not that way. And I don't see it going back in the opposite direction. So, and, just to close out with Trey up at the top, his son Caleb's an amazing athlete. He's in the Hoover program. So what Trey sees is his son's in the middle school at Hoover. They're undefeated, of course. They're playing a ton of ball games. They're outstanding. And his son's going to end up being a great high school player. But his point is Hoover's won 3 state championships in a row. But they aren't just sitting back saying, oh, my gosh, our main guys headed off to UAB and our next guys at Tennessee now. I mean, poor us, we're not going to be able to compete anymore. No, it's not the way that program's been built. They expect to win a championship year in and year out. And it's because they weren't necessarily only worrying about those couple of years they've got those great players. No, they're worrying about that middle school, which is going to end up having to be the great players. And if you keep looking down, you go, well, my middle school team's 17-0. I wonder how I'm going to be in a few years. I got an idea you're going to be pretty good in a few years if that's what you're building. So it's a good point he makes. And I enjoy keeping up with Caleb, so keep them coming, Trey.
You got some major coaching moves, some schools that have openings and some that have been filled, namely this week, Opelika with J.C. Chandler, with Coach Chandler coming in and from Catholic, and he's an Opelika guy, so so that's a big move there. And then now the Phoenix City job's open. So in that region, you've had a couple of big openings, and now we'll see, because Phoenix City and Thompson arguably have been the top 2 7A programs for a while. So when you have one of those open up, it's going to be major news. So all eyes on that Phoenix City job and seeing who will be the next coach over there, because they've had a good run of really good coaches. I mean, when you talk about Jamie Dubose and Pat Nix, and I can keep going down the list, they've had some really good coaches over there.
Yeah, and that's a great job. And, it's one of those 5 or 6 jobs that if they call on you, don't turn down an interview. I don't care where you are here in this state, Brett, because they're just going to produce talent on top of talent. And they're also in an area, the same as this first hour conversation. They're in an area with the Columbus market, Russell County. They're in a 20 or 30-mile radius where great athletes going to find their way to you. If you build up the right program with the right leader, they'll find their way to you, like it or dislike it. And so there's certain parts of that's one we didn't bring up, Brett, but that's another one that's got great resources around them when it comes to talent. Not only in the sport of football, but really in every sport. I mean, look at their girls' athletics over there. Unbelievable. Back-to-back national championships in flag football.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
hadn't had a close ball game in 3 years. An amazing run there. And so I think everybody kind of gets caught up in just football, but that's one thing that I'm proud of our group is if you get out and you broadcast these other sports, you see how important other sports are to a lot of communities, and you really get a really internal look. Brett and Faith especially do this. They get a close-up look week in and week out. We hope that you find our On the Road with HSA show. They get a close-up look at Orange Beach High School and why is their softball team nationally ranked and one of the best in the country. And it's not a miracle. It's great facilities, great athletes, great development, great coaching all the way around. And I enjoy watching those shows based off of, I wonder what they're doing that others aren't, Brett. And I think that's the one thing that y'all present with that show that a lot of others can't.
Yeah, I've been to places I didn't think I'd ever go. I mean, I've been to Spring Garden, Alabama. I mean, and if you don't have Ace Austin, I would have never traveled to Spring Garden. I would have never had any reason to be at Spring Garden. So anyway, with that being said, that's the beautiful thing about being able to travel and go do the things that you do. And see this and bring attention to these schools that otherwise wouldn't get it. And so that's what we love to do on the HSA side. And again, we've embraced that over the years. And, we've built this program, this On the Road show that's backed by the Alabama Community College System. It's backed by the Alabama Department of Transportation. We couldn't do the show without either one of those. And, we've added that mix of the community college. Now, when we go around to these communities, we go visit the local community college and talk about what great things they have going on, because the majority of these kids we're covering in these programs are going to end up at one of these community colleges. It's just a natural fit all the way around. So, I mean, you look at it from that standpoint, and we'll have this week. I think I mentioned it earlier. We're going to Pisgah to cover the girls team, and then we'll drift down to Gadsden City and cover the boys. So we've got some really good shows coming up, and we'll be in the Wiregrass for the first time. We get text and DMs all the time. When you come into our school? When you come into our school? I love that, because that means people are watching, and it means that it's an impactful show, and it means that, hey, we want you to come see what we're doing over here. And I love that. And so we try to give attention. It doesn't matter what class you're in, whatever. If you got something going on great in your community, we want to come cover it. So
it's like economic development has become athletic development in some of these communities. It's just the truth. You've got unbelievable facilities, a reason for people to travel to your community to play in tournaments. All of these things go hand in hand together, and marketing these programs is more important than ever, because you want to give families a reason to come and live in your community. And if that reason is athletics, then so be it. They're going to make decisions. There's worse reasons to make a decision to move to a community.
Right.
So you better be one of them that they want to move to. I'll just put it that way.
No doubt. All right, let's take a break here on the show. Stay tuned. More to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this.
Can Miami play with Indiana, Brett?
Yeah, they can down there. Being at home.
Think so?
I think that's what's going to make it a fun game. I do. I think it's going to be. And they're physical enough that they can
They can play old school, grind it out, control the clock football too if they need to.
If Miami's healthy, they get those guys back that got banged up. Then I think it could be a really good game.
Boy, Ole Miss did a hell of a job controlling the edges against
They
Miami.
did, man.
They couldn't have done a better job.
No, I agree.
They couldn't win the line of scrimmage. Miami's
Right.
so much better than they were on the lines of scrimmage.
I totally agree.
Those two backs for Miami, they're good. Downhill runners, north south, physical. That's a place they get their sea legs under them. It won't change anytime soon.
No.
Because that is a rabid alumni base that can help coerce players to that program. I've seen some of the pictures out of just Miami alumni players standing together, and when you think back on it, it's been a little while since they've been great, but I mean, they're the who's who of pro football in those pictures. It's amazing the talent they had through that place.
And lots.
Yeah, Trey, I think that if you can control lines of scrimmage, you can find a way to stay in ball games.
Yeah, and I mean that's why you look over at Auburn, they've had great skill guys, and they can't win lines of scrimmage the last 10 years. And so that's why they ain't been any good.
Do you see the Matt? I see your comment. I bet there will be a lot of IU fans in Miami.
The price of the
y'all see the price point on
$3,800?
No, over $6,000.
Well, I think the cheapest is like $3,800.
Okay.
I mean, come on, man. Like, the cheapest, like that's some bargain or something. But
still, yeah, I thought I saw that the cheap one was still over $6,000.
Well, it may have jumped. I mean, everybody's trying. I mean, can you imagine everybody trying? I mean, Indiana's never been good ever, and it's been 24 years since Miami, and they're playing at home. So, yeah, the market.
And to add to it, that Indiana fan base is massive.
Oh, they are.
And where was the fan base built? Around basketball.
Yep.
And they haven't had success in basketball.
I know.
They have got to be starving for this with Indiana.
Yeah, 5 seconds. Yeah, I know. And no doubt. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. About 45 minutes left in the show today. We appreciate JR's. We appreciate Sunshine Heating and Air. We'll dive into the college side now with about 45 minutes left, and we got to start with the 2 playoff games. I thought Glenn said he's got 3 tickets for sale. You're going to be set up pretty well if you got 3 tickets to sell. I wish I had 3 or 4 tickets to sell to this game. Indiana is the losingest program in Power 4 history. They went from the losingest program to being on the cusp. This story's unreal. And, I've heard some Alabama fans go, well, we hired Kalen DeBoer when we had a chance to hire Kirk Cignetti. Now, first of all, let's flash back. This man's leaving James Madison. Is there any Alabama fan? I know he was an analyst at Alabama and all that. Let's be honest with ourselves. Who was out there clamoring that, we've just got to hire Kirk Cignetti as the next guy? Like, no, if you said that, if you come on here and comment that, you're lying, and you know you are. So I'm calling you out. Now that he has gotten to where he is at Indiana, and it's like, well, man, he's the imps of Nick Saban. I don't know why in the heck we went to hire. We should have hired. Woulda, coulda. Hindsight's 2020. I don't think anybody saw Kirk Cignetti leaving James Madison going to Indiana as some massive earthquake move in college football. Did you? Was that on your bingo card?
No, I think that we all are eating crow based off of our comments last year. Me, you, Luke, all of the above. Any talking head that's out there.
Now, prior to that, in defense of all of us, Indiana had outside of one team on their schedule. They played 2 teams on their schedule that were worth a darn, and they got the hell beat out of them in both of them. And everybody was like, do they deserve to get in the playoff because they ain't played anybody? And we talked about that. You've had multiple discussions about, well, strength of schedule should count. You should be able to, that should matter, and it should matter. But we had no idea what Kirk Cignetti was building and where they were going. We thought last year was a flash in the pan, and they kind of cut corners to get where they were because they had not beaten anybody. They had 11 wins, but the two quality teams on their schedule, they got blown out. Well, this year, completely different story. They've proven themselves. They went on the road and beat Oregon early in the season. So everybody's like, well, dismiss the fact they hadn't played anybody now. And then you move on through the season and you see what they've done. And it's amazing. But my whole point in saying all that is nobody knew Kirk Cignetti was going to emerge and be this. I mean, nobody did.
Well, the point I was going to make is I give all of us a pass because up until that
100%.
point, a team like that coming from out of nowhere to really be able to compete was not going to happen. There are just too many uphill battles that you've got to fight to get to the level of, say, where Georgia, Alabama, and a couple of other programs have gotten to from a talent standpoint and a coaching standpoint. I mean, it's just you couldn't fathom that a team that has always been that bad at football, because you take a couple of years ago, we've got programs where the rich are about to get more rich than they've ever been. And that number of maybe 15 programs here in the country that can actually win a national championship is going to dwindle down to maybe 5 to 8.
It's been right opposite. It's been the opposite.
It's been the opposite. I didn't see that. So you've got to give all of us a pass because I think
the parity is increased in the sport.
It has, and that part is wonderful for the sport. If there is some part of you that in your blue blood nature watches those Indiana fans in those stands last night, and not have a little passion around college athletics.
What about the Ole Miss fans too? Look at them.
My point is, like, it's great for other teams to have a chance. Now, hell, if you're Alabama and you don't want to see anybody else get a chance to win a championship other than you, then I guess you can come on and say that I hate it to see these other programs get. But I'm saying that I think it's wonderful that the Indiana fan base and the alumni base, by the way, that Justin just mentions here, the largest alumni base living in the country, 805,000 alumni.
And I think
they're not going to find a way
there somewhere.
They're going to find their $4,000 to $6,000 to get in that.
I want to flash over to another topic in this Oregon program. Phil Knight talking about money. Nobody's got more money. Nobody's got more marketing power than Oregon, with Nike backing them. They've been trying to buy a championship for 20 years. They can't do it, man. This is 2 years in a row they've had their dang doors blown off. I'm talking about blown slap. Ohio State blew their doors off last year, and they were number one in the country. Now they fast forward to this year, and they run up on Indiana, and they just it just shows you, like, yes, you can put yourself in position with the money and stuff like that. But right now, Oregon, they're an anomaly. I mean, they've been to the playoffs multiple times. We beat them in a national championship game in 2010. That's the closest they've been, by the way. They actually got in the game and played for it. They can't get over the hump, man. They just can't. And like Dan Lanning, he's like, but man, he has gotten dusted 2 years in a row, man, in the playoffs. So at some point in time, it starts to become mental with your program.
Yeah, maybe. But, I'll take the opposite side of that as an Auburn fan. Shit, I just pray that we could get dusted like that in a playoff run year in and year out.
Yeah, this is not about Auburn. I'm not bringing this up to do that. I'm saying that Oregon, nobody spent more money and nobody has said more about Phil Knight. I'm not dying without seeing us win a national championship. And he's been saying it for 20 years. And nobody's had more ammo, marketing, money-wise, uniform-wise, all the trinkets, all the things that appeal to the kids nowadays to draw them in. I mean, hell, they came into the state and got name offered. And you go get players wherever they want to go get them. And they can't put it together. I'm not bashing them to death. I'm just saying at some point it becomes mental. No, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, we've got our own problems. We can talk about Auburn's problems from now to the end of time. I'm saying Oregon in a bubble, nobody's done more and spent more money and done more things marketing than they have to not have gotten to the top yet.
All right, well, let me ask. In any of those years, did you feel like they were the best team?
Thought they were last year.
You thought they were the best team last year?
And so did everybody else in the country. They were number one forever.
Yeah.
And they're number one in the Rose Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And Ohio State comes out there, and what they get beat? It was 41-3 or something. And then they ended up scoring a few touchdowns and make it close. But I mean, they were getting skull drugged, man. It's like they're the number one team in the country, and you just wait, and there's a game they're going to show up, and they didn't show up.
Is there a part of watching their games that is a deficiency that they have that makes you think that they can't get over the hump?
I don't know, because they've had Cristobal, they've had Chip Kelly, they've had all these coaches, and they've gotten them close.
To me, it feels like when they play the best teams in the countries, the two that I brought up and some other teams, they can't win the line of scrimmage. And I don't know if that has something to do with the area of the country that they're in from a recruiting standpoint. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's part of it.
And Trey's saying the same thing I'm saying. He's like, I thought about it last night. He said, what's the reason Oregon can't get over the hump? They've got everything that you could imagine. There's nothing they long for. The only thing I think is a disadvantage for Oregon is their geographic location.
That's what I'm asking.
But I mean, it hadn't stopped them from going out and getting some of the best players in the country from wherever they want to go get them, because they throw so much money and so much marketing power, shoe deals and everything else at these kids. They go, man, and their facilities are phenomenal. These kids tour. We got to get the break. These kids tour. And they come back going, God, I got to go up there. So anyway, let's get the break. We come back. Got a lot more to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. I wish there was a way I could mute my phone and be able to pay attention to the breaks and stuff. I apologize, everybody. But if I put it on D&D, I'll miss the dang breaks because I won't be getting alerts. And he's got to send this thing, and it dings all the daggum time. So I apologize.
Just a quick note, this really television show. If you're just tuning in or just finding us, you're like, what are they doing? Well, we're feeding a TV show that we've been doing for how long? We've been doing it, Brett?
20
years.
Yep.
I can tell your voice and your look sounds better outside of football season than it does during football season. When we get home about 11:30.
Well, yeah. I mean, my voice actually held up during football season this year. It's just been the last 3 weeks. This crap that I've had, man, it has been, I don't know, dude. It's been awful.
Well, that no running back, Glenn's part of the issue of just
and they just
not being physical on the line of scrimmage.
They just made some terrible mistakes, man. Like, the game was 7-7, but there was no point. The problem with Oregon last night is couldn't stop them.
No, they weren't going to either.
So
and they were getting whipped so bad up front. Mendoza made some amazing passes, but hell, I truly believe if Indiana only wanted to throw the ball like 7 or 8 times last night, they could have still won that football game.
Right.
Oregon could not match them. Those little counters and things they were hitting, Brett, they were like, however you draw them up.
Right.
Watching film, that's how Indiana was running those things.
That's it.
And Indiana's offensive line, boy, how good is Coogan? Where is his draft?
I don't know, man. That's ungood.
Projection. He plays the game the right way. Just watch him on off plays, the way that he's blocking. He's amazing.
Oh, I know, man. I'm telling you.
See that counter they hit on the left sideline and what he did, how he turned?
He
set his body up so perfect. I mean, he's got a DB, little quick DB coming, and I mean, that is almost impossible to coach unless you know how to coach it. And he just squares him up so nicely, allows him to come into him, and then just takes him totally out of the play. You can draw it up better.
Could not. All right, here we go. 30 seconds. This stupid weather, man.
Pouring out there.
Nah, it's going to be storming again. Can't start anything on time. Thank God.
I'm in the gym today, so it's no problem for me.
Yeah, unless the roof leaks. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. A couple more segments left on the show today. The point spread, 7.5. Indiana, saw it come out last night right after the game. I think it's going to be a good football game. I think, with it being Miami in Miami, adds something to that. And it actually gives Indiana a challenge, I think, them having to travel down. Now, Indiana will have a bunch of fans down there. There's no question. But with it being at Miami, and just the storyline's great and all the way around. And, it's just, when you look at Fernando Mendoza, man, it's hard not to like that guy because he's like a little kid, man. And, like, he's so respectful of the other teams. And, he's just so thankful for the opportunity. And there's nothing arrogant about him. I mean, it's just fun to pull for somebody like that. So looking forward to that and kind of seeing how that game. It'll be a fun, exciting game, and then we'll turn back to the for a moment in time there for 3 or 4 hours. We'll enjoy that game, and then we'll jump right back in the hell of college day-to-day operations of the portal and the NIL and all that crap. That's what's made this so refreshing for a lot of people is that, they're not about star rankings. They're not about anything. And they're just lining up and whipping these teams like Oregon and these teams that are just loaded with top ranked talent and all the marketing money and all this kind of stuff. And it's just, I think it's a breath of fresh air in a toxic environment that we're all living in right now.
Well, Miami too. Miami's playing football the right way. That's why I love watching them play. I mean, they are so physical, Brett. They're so well coached. They win the lines of scrimmage. It just feels old school. And then you've got two upperclassmen at quarterback that don't seem to make the key mistakes that cost you the ball game, like you saw with Oregon last night.
Right.
Both have been winners wherever they've been. It is refreshing. And hey, look, the ratings may not show this, but the rest of the country that's not an Ohio State or an Alabama or a Georgia fan, we're relishing in this because we're sick and tired of watching y'all play for championships. It just gets disgustingly old. And you can say, well, you're just an outlier on that, Randy. I don't know. I don't think I am. I think that there are more people that are excited to see a Miami program that hasn't been anywhere near to this level for 22 or 23 years, and an Indiana program that's never been at this level. I think the parity is a great thing. I didn't see it coming. I thought it would go the opposite way, but we got way more parity now than we had 10 years ago. Did you see it coming that way, Brett? Did anybody out there see the day and age where the rich get richer and you can pay players that all of a sudden
you just stockpile whatever you wanted for those programs, but it ain't. Well, what you're finding out is the Texas, I go back to a comment that Jason Caldwell and I had a conversation with a couple of years ago. And he didn't say Indiana, but he said Purdue, which happens to be in the same. I mean, he said the Purdues of the world, those type teams with this new landscape are going to be able to go in there and take a player from you that otherwise they would have never had a shot at getting before.
Good point.
And I kind of dismissed that and said, well, but Indiana, again, has proven that they can be strategic. I don't think anybody saw them doing what they're doing this year, and they don't have a bunch of star ratings on their roster. But the chemistry of that team and how it's built, but the Texas Tech's probably the best example. Texas Tech football ain't ever really done anything. I mean, they've had some good players come through the program.
Got some great quarterbacks.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, and Crabtree at receiver and stuff. But outside of that, man, ain't nobody talking about Texas Tech football every year. Now they're going to, because this booster has said it don't matter what the heck happens. We're not going to be second to anybody and getting who. I mean, he just went and dropped $5 million on a guy that I'm not sure. I don't know what he's worth, but I mean, I guess he was rated the best on the market at the time. His numbers weren't even as good as Byron Brown's. We may have gotten a steal for what we got Byron Brown for, but this guy goes and gets Sorsby out of the portal and pays him $5 million. And, you know, don't be surprised if SMU continues their upward climb. You know, these teams that have been dead for a long time now are relevant, maybe for the first time, or relevant again. And so it's just what we've seen in college basketball.
I was about to go there.
It's just what we've seen in college basketball.
And exactly what we're seeing from Auburn basketball this year. You know, it's the reason I defend Stephen Pearl right now. You know, if Auburn gives him the money, gives Bruce the money, I don't know that they didn't give him the money, but let's just say if Auburn had another $5 million to spend on this basketball team, they could have added 3 pieces, and one of them being Yoxel from UAB. I think he's getting, 2.3 to play at Michigan?
Something like that.
I think Auburn offered him $1 million. If Auburn offered him another $1.5 million and paid $2.5 million, we'd have probably all been up in arms. But here we are halfway through the season, and Auburn's mediocre and Michigan's undefeated. And I would guess Michigan's roster's $7 to $8 million more than Auburn's. Is that a fair assessment, Brett?
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
it may only be 5. I'm only asking if Auburn had another 5. If Auburn spent 2.5 and 1.25 on the next 2, and you got another big and you got Yoxel, what would this team look like? It look a lot better than it does right now. So, and currently Auburn's playing 6 or 7 players major minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a big ask for those 6 or 7 players. It's a lot of pressure to put on them, and so I give that program a pass.
I mean, I definitely think you can't just judge his whole ability to coach in 1 year, but I do think, you know, and I've said this, I mean, this is not a terrible team, and you should not have lost a 16-point lead at home to a Texas A&M team that I think when the dust settles is not going to be one of the top teams in this league. I may be wrong, and I think
they're ahead of schedule with Bucky. I think
they are, but
I think he will be one of
there, and I saw that team up close and personal.
I agree.
There's nothing dynamic. They have no star playmaker. They're undersized, and you know, no Auburn doesn't lose 16-point leads inside Neville Arena late in the second half. I'm sorry, and that again, a lot will remain to be seen, and you got to give the guy a chance, but. You know, Auburn's staring down the barrel of 0-3 if they don't figure out something today, because they got a really good basketball team with a really good point guard coming in and a much better team in Arkansas. Doesn't mean Auburn can't rally and win the game today, but it's got to start today. You get 0-3, and then you got to go on the road Tuesday and play Missouri, who's kicking everybody's butt right now. You're staring at 0-4. Because they just went to Rupp and beat Kentucky. They beat Florida the game before.
That is a program that is getting coached up.
They are.
When I watch Missouri, they play harder than anybody.
Well, and again, I mean, that's what you get week in and week out in this league. So, look, there's no the honeymoon doesn't last very long. And you know, all everybody said was, well, the positive thing is they kept the whole coaching staff and I got the break. We're gonna get there, brother. The coaching staff staying together and the continuity, and you kept, you know, your best player and Todd, and you go out and get all these other guys, and you try to keep it as congruent as possible. But when you start losing the way Auburn's been losing, and if it continues, people stop. They go, okay, honeymoon's over. We got to figure this out.
Well, Brett, that depth factor was a key to losing that game the other night.
Well, I don't know what to say on that, because I can tell you before the season started and going into Pro Day, when I was at Pro Day and I sent y'all a message, I gave y'all a play-by-play, and every beat writer sitting beside me felt the same way. This team probably was going to be deeper than last year's team. Now, we weren't saying – well, and I don't know whose fault that is. I
They're
don't.
not there.
No, but they were.
And whoever said that to you, who said that?
You mean what? Who said what?
Who said this Auburn team that I watch and I look at that bench is deeper than
Stephen Pearl said it, Randy. Go back and go to media days.
But that is the biggest wishful thinking coach speak that
No, it's not, because Auburn didn't play but 6 or 7 guys coming down the stretch last year. He said it at media. I was there at media days. I was there at Pro Day. That's what he said. I didn't say it. Every beat writer was agreeing. We were watching Pro Day. Who didn't think Elijah Freeman and SWA and all those guys weren't going to be a better depth piece than what Auburn had? I mean,
we played 5 players 20-plus minutes of it.
I'm not saying what Auburn just played. I'm saying before the season started.
I don't.
He said that he was going to play 10 or 11.
Looked at that team and thought it was a deeper team than last year.
Randy, you only played 7 guys coming down the stretch
last year. The 7 or 8 that you had though last year.
5 plus 2 is 2 bench players. You're looking at 11 guys. You're looking at a more athletic, more versatile team than talent-wise on paper than what you had last year. I'm not comparing them to the Final Four team. That was a much better team. But Stephen Pearl stood up in front of everybody and said, we've got a deeper team top to bottom. We've got to have a deeper team. We've got to play 10 or 11 guys to have a chance. Well, I know that. That's exactly my point. And I don't know whose fault that is. It can only be one person's fault. If you got that and you said that, and then all of a sudden you come back and you're only playing 6 guys and everybody's dragging the ground. I don't know why you don't play. Why is Magwood? I told y'all what Magwood was doing in the Pro Day. And y'all were like, man, this is going to be awesome. Every beat writer beside me was like, this dude shoot the lights out. And SWA was showing out. SWA played 40-something minutes the other night. Randy didn't score a point. How the hell do you do that? I'd go out there and score a point. I'd sling one up in the rafters and rattle around and fall. If I played 44 minutes in a game, including overtime, I don't know why they're not getting the productions, my question. I mean, that's it. He had to rely on more people this year because you don't have Janai Broome. You don't have Dylan Cardwell. You don't have those guys that were built to be like marathon guys in a game. And we had to rely on more, and he's not getting the production out of his bench. And you're undersized too. That's another thing. That's a combination. That's not a good combination. All right, we're way past break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this. I just, that to me, like I thought Freeman and I thought SWA and I thought Magwood was going to be a lot better complement. Magwood can't even score, man. Like
the other 2 are getting lots of minutes. I mean, Magwood's one that's not getting a lot of minutes. But I mean, you're bringing up 2 guys that are 2 of your top 5 guys.
Well, but they're not starters. I mean, SWA don't start a lot of times. I mean, he mixes in and out. I mean, Todd ain't even been starting. Like they're trying to figure out the combination of how this thing's going to work. But when I go down through here and I look at the depth, there's several guys.
I keep saying this, Ed. You know, I've never met a coach that left when he had his best squad and his best team put together. They don't leave then. And I know it's his son, so it's a little bit different storyline there. But you exit stage left when you know there's going to be a little bit of a downturn. Well, it's here. And are there some pieces there? Absolutely. If there weren't a couple of pieces, we really would be in a mess. You take Keyshawn Hall off.
Well, I mean, you take him off. You take him off the team, you did. Like you probably, I don't know what your record is at this point. Because that guy is a machine. And, but I mean, when I go down through here and I look, I mean, you just ain't got a lot. I mean, they're just not even options that you thought were going to be some options to give you. I'm not saying that you're going to get 25 minutes out of them. You think you can get 12 to 14. So excited. I'll have to ask Kyle about that. Where are they going to go into the war? I'm going to get them a shrimp platter, Andy. But I just, it's not there, man. As far as production from the bench. So you're now relying on Keyshawn Murphy, who was not a starter at Mississippi State. We were all excited about that, but you thought, okay, depth piece, good piece, but not a guy that you're going to have to rely on for 30 minutes a game. You were going to be able to mix and match. And look, to me, the biggest surprise of all of them is, and he's my favorite player on the team, is Kevin Overton. He was supposed to be a defensive guy. He's had to assume an offensive role. If he ain't scoring what he's been scoring, we're getting killed. I don't know, man. Just there's a chemistry problem here with this team.
Well, I think there's a lot of talent decision problems here with this team too, man. I mean, the way this team was constructed is not very good.
They were all complicit in it. Like Stephen helped recruit this team, and so did Bruce. So look, it's not it's not from a talent wise, it's not terrible.
Oh no, I think the ceiling on a couple of the players are outstanding. I mean,
does it have deficiencies? Yeah, it does. But I mean, I just from my look, and I hope it changes, but I just see a bunch of individual pods, and that's the thing that Stevens brought up. We got to be better at distributing the basketball. We got to be more fluid on offense. We got to quit playing one-on-one. Let me break my guy down, and let me come down here and fire up a wild shot that, I just don't see a flow a lot of times. And, good defense really kind of sparks good offense. I think we're back here. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. This will be a very short segment because we got to get caught back up because we only have one more segment coming up. But talking about this, I just think that, you're kind of at a crucial part of the season. I hate to say it 3 games into SEC play, but Auburn really needs to figure out a way to get a win today because, like I said on Gary Harrison's show yesterday, the bigger the hole you dig early, the harder it is to come out of this thing.
Yeah, and the SEC is really good. I watched the Bama-Vandy game the other night, bro. That was a great basketball game, by the way.
But another proof positive, you take LeBaron Philon off Alabama's team, they're nowhere near the team they are either.
Look, Alabama feels like they're structured a lot like Auburn.
They are, I think.
Very questionable decisions with post-play decisions by both of these programs. I mean, I think the pieces on the perimeter could win in a lot of places if you added 2 more depth pieces and one really good player, maybe a wing or something on both of these teams. It's not that they're bad teams. I'm very hopeful that both teams can find a way to 10 wins in the SEC and make the tournament again. I think that would be a good year for both Auburn and Alabama. But that's not where we've been. But Vandy on the opposite end, boy, Vandy's got depth.
Right.
Duke Miles goes out. By the way, love seeing Duke Miles play. Brett and I have called a number of league games back in the day where Duke Miles was the best player on the court. And that system that Bucky had at Mountain Brook and then Robert E. Lee implementing that system into their play, Brett, that was some wonderful, wonderful basketball in the state of Alabama. And Duke Miles was a catalyst for that defensively with the way that he played. So it's great to see him have the success that he's having. But he goes out, fouls out, and there's no problem. They got another point guard that goes in, scores 29 points, and I know that he's one of their key scorers to go along with Duke. But Brett, they've got depth pieces in the post. They shoot it exceptionally well from the perimeter, and this has been put together in a short term.
It has.
So it's kind of at the end of the day, you got to question the decisions that you made compared to what others have made. And you want to talk about a program in the SEC that's on the ups? That's Vandy. Vandy's got it going on right now, buddy.
No, well, Vandy, yeah, they there's no question about it.
They marketed that thing well. It's sitting there in a thriving community that people want to gravitate to, and it's impressive what's going on with Vandy.
Yeah, I mean they got all the momentum in the world. They just took a player from Georgia. I mean, get the top quarterback to commit to Georgia, and then they go in and take him away, and it's because of everything that's going on in the field around Nashville and all that. Vanderbilt's finally, it's like they've had this gold mine sitting over here, and they finally decided to go over there and take a pick and start hammering away, and they finally struck gold and everything, football, basketball, baseball. Now, again, they're going to have to prove that they can keep doing it in football without Pavia. And we'll see. I mean, I think they've got a lot of momentum.
But if you go and get the number 1 rated high school recruit at quarterback.
But that guy may not be Pavia, though.
He may not be, but my point is, you put the piece in place to at least give you a chance.
You never would have ever gotten that guy if you hadn't built what you got to this point. So
yeah.
All you're doing is you're giving it your best shot for sure. All right, up against the final break of the show. Stay tuned. One final segment right after this. I don't know, Justin. I don't worry.
Cartwell, Ronald, you're right. I mean, Cartwell was a perfect piece, and he was a developed piece.
But you don't replace what he was as a person either. Like that guy, like he brought 110 every game, and he wanted to be at Auburn, man. He was like, he'd be pissed off if you said something bad about Auburn. That's how much Auburn is in that guy. So I'm just, and this is the way the world works now with these turnover. Just back to the days of the one and dones. Kentucky gets 5 McDonald's All-Americans every year. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. It just depended on the personalities and the chemistry. I ain't too sure these two. I mean, this year the chemistry on this team is there. It may get there. I mean, I think this team fights hard. I think they play hard. I don't see a bunch of quitters out there. But you know, it's like they play in bubbles. You know, it's like for 2 or 3 minutes it'll be Tahad, and 2 or 3 minutes. Like Hall went missing for 15 minutes the other night. Like he had 20 points early in the third, and it was like didn't start scoring again till like the last 5 minutes of the game, and then kind of took the game over. And it was like, well, where the hell's he been for 15 minutes? You know, and like, why should that guy ever go dormant in a game? You need him almost 40 minutes. So it's that's the thing. It's like, and somebody made that analysis the other night. It's like they go, oh, well, crap, we ain't gotten the ball over there to him in 5 minutes. Now it's his turn. And, oh, we've forgotten about him, instead of there being some kind of a flow on offense where the ball, you know, it's evenly distributed. We don't have very many assists in these games. So, and right now we only have 1 point guard, and it's Tahad, because Magwood's not reliable enough to give you any quality minutes. We're getting, 8 or 9 minutes a game? So, I don't know. We'll see what happens tonight.
They're good.
No, yeah, Arkansas is real good.
Arkansas is good.
Didn't take Calipari long. And I'm thinking he's glad he got the heck out of Kentucky. Now you got old Pope over there saying he's going to crawl up in the bed and kill himself. I'm like, this has gotten to the point, what is wrong with people, man? Like, life ain't that bad, dude. But I guess the pressure in Kentucky can be that bad.
Is Coleman a done deal for Texas or no?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody knows. These kids just shopping around like school ain't started back. Hell, school been in 3 or 4 days. They just taking the grand tour. They still touring around all over the country on vacation. Well, I think I'll figure out where I'm going to go. When? In March?
Academics are
just a joke.
They're a thing of the past, aren't they?
Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Yeah, like nobody, it's almost comical that you bring up somebody going to class. You're like, huh? Hell, I mean, there's 3 or 4 guys we're following. They've been in a different school every day, taking pictures and posing and, you know, traveling around, jet setting, Fortune 500 life. Class started this week. Nobody cares. I mean, and don't even, like, at some point you got to move. Not only are you got to figure out where you're going to go, you got to pack all your crap up and move it to wherever you're going and get settled in. We just went ahead as a society and said, let's go ahead and make this thing a full 3-ring circus. Let's go past the 1 ring and the 2, make it a full 3-ring circus. Because hell, Cam Coleman sniffed a book. Malcolm, Has he seen inside of he's been on the world tour for the last couple of weeks. He's been at A&M, Kentucky, Arkansas.
Well, I guess you're just not in classes, are you, though? I mean, if you've
No,
decided
you ain't even registered anywhere. I mean, they're not even enrolled anywhere at this point.
So I guess that doesn't matter. I mean, I guess you just take a semester off. And nor when's the last time you heard
You can't take a semester off to be able to be eligible to participate in spring practice. You got to be enrolled. You can't take a semester off and go out there and suit up. And go.
So your point is you're just going to start classes 3 weeks to a month.
Just whenever the hell you get there. Don't matter if the teacher's been through a month of economics. Well, it's all right. I'll jump in. I'll jump on in. Wherever. It makes it more obvious of how much this is a calamity. There's no other way to spin it. Justin said, you don't think Alabama's going through absolute checkbook? Cam Coleman, they're struggling right now, especially with this running back visiting Texas. Yeah, they've missed on, look, this is the way of the world, man. I think that's the thing Alabama fans have to come to grips with, and other schools. What you've done in the past and the clout that you've had and the things that you've done don't really necessarily win out with all these guys anymore. They just don't. And, what you've done and what you built in the past is great, but it don't carry a lot of weight with these kids in this world now. I mean, like going back to Kentucky and basketball, Randy. I mean, the history and all the lore of playing in Rupp, they don't care. Don't matter to them.
I think it all comes down to that leader now, who the coach is and what they can do for them and can they get them to the league. And that's probably it's always been part of the story, but the ability to just up and move and not lose a year, that's the change that I feel like is, if you were to ask me what's the most important change to clean this transfer portal deal up, and that's one transfer to play, second transfer, you got to sit a year.
Yeah,
I'd clean it up right there immediately.
Let me get out for TV and we'll stay up for about 1 minute to close out. So, again, we appreciate everybody that watches every single Saturday. We'll be back with you next Saturday for more of the Saturday Sports Countdown. Hope you have a great weekend, everybody.
And I don't know how they make that happen unless this is the craziest thing in the world to hear from me, because I want government control. As little government control as possible out there is my choice.
Yeah, I mean, more government's not the answer.
I don't think they're going to be able to make a decision without them stepping in.
Well, they've got to create some collective bargaining stuff, and some power there where every time you make a decision, you just can't run to the legal system and sue somebody. That's it. You got to live within the rules, man. And if you don't like it, well, then go find something else to do. Okay? If you don't like it and you think it's unfair, I got an idea. You ain't got to do this at all. It's kind of like I said about the universities. Take the facilities away. Take all of the resources away. Where the hell are you going to play at, man? You going to go create a league? Well, good luck. But, you want to play in Jordan-Hare, it's going to cost you $300 million to rent the stadium every year. You know what? You want to do that? Then we can start throwing money around too. But the colleges have got to step up and they got to flex their muscle a little bit and say, okay, we've been pushed around enough. We know the pendulum was in the completely opposite direction for a long time, and we had all the power, but now y'all have had all the power, and y'all been dictating how everything goes, and we ain't standing for that either. So we better both figure out some common ground to stand on.
I'm going to keep mentioning this because it's going to end up coming up at some point in time. It just is not even part of the discussion right now, but it's the Title IX deal. How that's not an everyday conversation on all.
Not even on the topics, and they're not even anybody even thinking about talking about it.
Beyond belief to me.
It's not. All right, hang on. When I sign off, I want to show you something real quick. Okay. All right, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be back with you on Monday for Auburn Blitz and all the other programming we got all week. So make sure you tune us in, and we appreciate it.